Hello, everyone. Coming at you today with another unedited video to answer an incredibly insightful question that was asked of me by one of my clients. And I wanted to share the question and answer with you because I think it is such an insightful and really applicable question to all of you. So the question was basically, what role does mindfulness and acceptance play in recovering from chronic dizziness symptoms? And why does it seem that those things aren't adequate or aren't enough to actually make someone's symptoms go away? So, this person had very obviously observed that there are people out there who have practiced a lot of mindfulness and a lot of acceptance of their symptoms, and they feel a lot better about them and they're living a better quality of life, but the symptoms still remain. Whereas on my channel, what I talk about a lot is actually recovering from the symptoms themselves. So, as you know, if you've watched any of my other videos and know a little bit about me on my channel, I talk a lot about mindfulness and acceptance, and those are two primary tools that I use in helping people recover from chronic dizziness symptoms. There are a couple reasons for this. The first is that, as we know, fear and anxiety are fuel for the chronic dizziness symptoms. So mindfulness and acceptance can help reduce that fear response and therefore also help bring the symptoms down a notch and improve your quality of life. The other way mindfulness really helps, and I think this is actually more important, is it can make you more aware of repressed emotions, deep held emotional conflicts, and other life related issues that you might have had in the past or are having now. The thing is that mindfulness makes you aware of those things, but mindfulness does not necessarily mean resolving those emotional issues. In fact, that's kind of the point of mindfulness, that you just kind of watch things in a neutral way and don't try to resolve them. You just kind of let them be. So this is a great tool, and it's a great tool for developing this mental ability to be more aware of your feelings and what's going on around you. But it does not necessarily teach you the skills that you need to actually confront and resolve emotions and conflicts that come up during your mindfulness. So I've talked a lot on my channel about the role of stress in the development of chronic dizziness symptoms. And I want to be clear about this. Stress is not the cause of chronic dizziness symptoms. I use the word stress because stress is such a relatable word and it encompasses so many things. But stress is usually the catalyst. So it's what kind of sets it off. It's the spark that often sets off the chronic dizziness symptoms. But I don't view it as the actual cause. And the reason I say this is because I've seen people go through extremely stressful life events and not have physical responses. And then I've seen people go through much less stressful situations that were maybe more or less stressful for that person, but not in a major way stressful for that person. And yet that still led them to develop chronic dizziness symptoms. So I see this. I see this in practice, and I see this here in the YouTube comments, and I see this in my community all the time. So the stressful events that people have in their lives are the catalyst. They may set it off, but they're not the cause. The cause is how you're responding to the stressful event that set things in motion, if you have identified it. In other words, what emotions have been brought up by the stressful event, and how are you reacting to those? What conflicts are unresolved in your life, and how are you reacting to those? And there's usually a long history of these kinds of more repressive patterns that I see in people who end up developing chronic dizziness during a stressful period of time, or not during a stressful period of time, although for most of you it did follow a period of stress. So some of you, as I've said before, it may be very obvious, like repressed anger that you haven't been able to get out, or repressed sadness or grief that you haven't been able to get out. But for others of you, it's a long history of bulldozing through your own feelings to either reach your goals as kind of a perfectionist, high achiever person, or bulldozing through your own needs to take care of other people. Those are kind of my two very artificial buckets of people because there's just a lot of overlap between them. But if your style is to push through rather than acknowledge and deal with, that's how you end up with the amount of pressure inside that leads to chronic dizziness symptoms. So again, the stressful event is like the boop, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, or as I often will say, it's the grain of rice that explodes the pressure cooker, but it's not what caused the pressure to build up in the pressure cooker in the first place. So, mindfulness meditation has a role, or informal mindfulness also has a role in helping you understand the contents of your pressure cooker, what's been causing all this stuff to build up for so long. But mindfulness does not necessarily teach you how to resolve those things. That has to be done. It can be done mindfully, but mindfulness meditation will not do that for you. That's work that you're going to have to do on your own in one way or another. And for some of you, that's a matter of just journaling and figuring out what those things are and working through them. For many of you, it's talking it through with a friend, loved one, or counselor. And for some of you, it's using other experiential forms of therapy. So there are people who get better from doing yoga, dance, art, other types of expression that helps you work through some of those unresolved emotions and conflicts that you have in your life. And of course, with that latter category, totally not my area of expertise. I'm definitely more of the let's talk it out kind of person, but just know those are also options for some of you guys. So I hope that was helpful. Mindfulness and acceptance have a role here. They have a big role to play. I would say it's probably one of the most important skills you can develop, but it's not adequate. If you just develop those skills and you don't actually resolve the underlying emotions and the conflicts that led you here in the first place, or what I've seen sometimes is that you actively use meditation to bypass those conflicts, like, oh, I'm just going to let go and just not worry about the fact that I'm angry. I'm just going to let that anger go. And that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't forgive people or you should always be full of rage, but do you see how if your style was already to bulldoze through your emotions, you're just bulldozing through them using meditation instead in that case? So being open to and truly accepting our feelings and allowing them to be in us involves a little bit more than mindfulness. So I'll be talking about this more in some future videos, but I hope that that helps distinguish between what I'm talking about and just plain old mindfulness and acceptance. All right, guys, talk to you soon. And if you have questions, comments, drop them below.